everybody's waiting till I get to go ahead. Patty, tell me when you're ready.
Two.
Okay. Patty, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Sabra Briere. You don't know me, and that's exactly my plan. Before we get started, I want everybody to turn off their phones. You don't have to close your phone, you have to turn off the ringer. You can leave it on buzz. If the cat escapes and the cat sitter calls you, at least you'll know to run quietly out of the building, okay? My task tonight is pretty simple. I get to introduce your two moderators. For those who haven't met them and for those who have, it's a fun job. I'd like you to meet Stephen Rohde and Tom Benson. Steve. Well, that should do it, but it won't. Stephen Rohde is a writer, lecturer, and political activist. For almost 50 years, he's practiced civil rights, civil liberties, and intellectual property law, and has won significant First Amendment victories in state and federal appellate courts. Mr. Rohde's law practice has also included representing TV and motion picture screenwriters, directors, and producers. Steve represented the producers of the highly acclaimed film Silkwood, starring Meryl Streep. And there he won a First Amendment victory upholding the rights of filmmakers to protect their confidential sources. He is past chair of the ACLU Foundation of Southern California and chair emeritus of Bend the Arc, a Jewish Partnership for Justice. He's a founder and current chair of Interfaith Communities United for Justice and Peace, member of the board of directors of Death Penalty Focus, and member of the Black Jewish Justice Alliance. He's a special advisor on free speech and First Amendment for the Muslim Public Affairs Council. Mr. Rohde is the author of the books American Words of Freedom, The Words That Define Our Nation, and Freedom of Assembly, and numerous articles and book reviews on civil liberties and constitutional history. He's co-author of The Foundations of Freedom, published by the Constitutional Rights Foundation, and he is co-host of Law and Disorder Radio and podcast. Steve also has a new 10-episode podcast called Speaking Freely, a First Amendment podcast, exploring the most important Supreme Court cases in the area of free speech and free press. It is produced by the Ms. Studio and is streaming online at Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, and MsMagazine.com. I'd like to call him a lightweight, but it wouldn't be fair. Tom Benson has served on the indivisible Sonoma County Advisory Council since 2017. He focused on constituent pressure, such as call scripts and meetings, and editorial writing. Then in 2022, he moderated the indivisible Sonoma County's interview series with the Democratic House candidates in 10 swing districts. In 2023, Tom, along with a small group of indivisible leaders from around the state, formed the California Grassroots Alliance with the goal of helping indivisible groups around the state focus on and win 6 vital swing district elections. As part of that effort, Tom, along with a team of dedicated writers, illustrators, and creatives, produced the 2024 election voter outreach video, Firebreak. I hope you all saw that. Firebreak positioned the voter as the hero of the story by employing shared values, identifying, this is what happens when you fold it, by identifying the villains, creating a shared vision for the future, and with recruitment of campaign volunteers being the closing call to action. Firebreak helped to educate and inspire campaign volunteers to drive voter engagement in the 6 swing districts in the 2024 California congressional election. As a result of these efforts by the California Grassroots Alliance and volunteers, they were able to help flip 3 congressional districts from red to blue and retain a crucial blue congressional seat in Orange County. Tom's current focus is using primaries to build a fighting Democratic Party. Tonight we're going to be quiet and respectful, and I'm going to keep time, so we're all going to be very rigid about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. Thank you, first of all, so much for being here tonight, just for showing up. That's just critical. And before we really dive in, I want to thank the candidates. From where I'm sitting, Eric Jones, Senator Mike McGuire, Audrey Denny, Congressman Mike Thompson. Thank you so much for being here this evening. We are so grateful to them for making the time. In some cases, it wasn't that easy. They had to rearrange schedules and kind of stretch things to be able to be here with us tonight. And for that, we're tremendously grateful. We also want to thank their staff members, because they're the ones that have to manage the calendar and get them here on time and everything else. So thank you to the staff members, both those who were present and those who weren't tonight. And I also want to thank our many volunteers with Indivisible Sonoma County who have helped put this evening together. It's not quite as easy as you might think. And I'm really glad to be here with Steve, being able to moderate tonight. So let's dive in. At the end of last year, Indivisible, we call Indivisible National, right? The Washington-based kind of, it's not really headquarters because the groups came first and then National came later, but Leah and Ezra and those folks, you know who I'm talking about. They did something new. So they called for activists to engage in primary elections this year because, as they put it, we need to build a stronger party of fighters for the era that we live in. And we agree. After years of pressuring congressional Democrats to respond forcefully and effectively to the threats they're facing, it's apparent that at the leadership level of the party, there are folks who are still committed to an obsolete version of politics, and one that they're probably not going to change from. So that change is going to have to start with us. Primary elections are one of the ways that we can begin that transformation, a chance for voters to decide the makeup of the party they want. It's a healthy process, the way of rebuilding. The most powerful way we as an Indivisible chapter can contribute is to endorse the candidates we feel are going to best meet this moment, and then work to get them elected. That's the strongest statement we can make, coupled with the strongest action, and that's what we need to do to build the party, the kind of party, I should say, that we need. And that's why we're holding our candidate forum this evening, to give the active members of Indivisible Sonoma County the opportunity to hear the candidates in our competitive races so that you can make an informed choice and vote for the candidates you believe Indivisible Sonoma County should endorse. And a note about California Congressional District 2, where Congressman Jared Huffman is running for re-election. Since he faces no significant opposition, we're not evaluating in that race. Jared's going to win the race one way or another. But since Indivisible Sonoma County spans 3 districts and is making the endorsements as an organization, as Indivisible Sonoma County, we're going to ask you to vote for candidates in both Congressional District 1 and the Congressional District 4 races, irrespective of where you may live in the county. And let me say a little bit about the new districts. As I'm sure you're all aware, there was a special election last year to pass Proposition 50. Many of you were probably instrumental in that effort, right? And the redistricting measure, as you know, was necessary to counter Trump's gerrymandering of congressional districts in Texas. But it changed the boundaries of districts throughout the state, and in doing so, it changed the political balance of each. That was the point. For our purposes tonight, however, there are a couple of things to note. The first is your own congressional district may have changed. So in your program tonight, you'll see a map of the new districts. It's not a huge map, so you may not be able to tell where your block is in that line that you're seeing running across the map. But if, in using the map, you're still not sure which district you are now in for this year's elections, and I urge you, even if you think you know, to go and check. We've also included a link where you can look up your congressional district. Like you can enter your address, find out where your new congressional district is. The second thing that I want to let you know is that because the boundaries have changed, California Congressional District 1 now reaches down into Sonoma County. It was previously considered a solid red seat. It was held by the late Doug LaMalfa, but it's now rated solid blue with the new redistricting, meaning that it's likely. Absolutely. It's likely the voters in California 1 will elect a Democrat this year. In case you were wondering about California 4, which has also had its boundaries moved, the other district where we have candidates featured tonight, it's still a solid blue district as well, as it has been for years. So, Steve, let me hand it over to you to talk about the voting process.
Thank you very much. I too want to thank every one of you for being here. Your civic participation is the linchpin of saving our democracy. You're here tonight, and certainly you have to vote in the next election. I want to thank our candidates for being here, and I want to especially thank Tom. He is a backbone of indivisible Sonoma County, having started in 2017, and he has provided extraordinary leadership to our organization. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you so much.
Let me tell you how this voting process will take place. That is the internal voting for indivisible Sonoma County's endorsement. By Wednesday, we will be sending out an email to all active members of indivisible Sonoma County who we have been able to identify. An active member is anyone who has attended at least 2 indivisible Sonoma County meetings in the last 6 months. Meetings can include, for example, general meetings, our Wednesday meetings over in Sebastopol, Thursday meetings in person, and other reoccurring team and subgroup meetings. Attendees tonight who have attended at least one other meeting in the last 6 months are eligible. That email that will go out by Wednesday will include a link to a video of this evening's forum, links to the questionnaire responses our primaries team received from the candidates, the recommendations from our primaries team, and a link to cast your vote online. We encourage you to read through all of the materials before casting your votes. We'll be asking you to vote for who indivisible Sonoma County should endorse in each district. And to emphasize what Tom said, because of our activism throughout this county, you're entitled to vote in each of the districts for purposes of our endorsement, irrespective of where you live. You'll have 3 choices, either candidate or a recommendation that indivisible Sonoma County not endorse in that particular race. Representatives of the campaigns are not eligible to vote, even if they're members of indivisible. Now, some ground rules about today's conversation. Tom and I will be asking the candidates a series of questions, with each candidate having 2 minutes to answer. We may ask a follow-up question if needed. In that case, a candidate will have 1 minute to answer the follow-up. If a candidate refers to their opponent during an answer, their opponent will be given an opportunity to briefly respond. We will also have a lightning round of quick questions roughly in the middle of our forum tonight, and we'll explain more about that when we reach that point. At the end of our entire program, each candidate will have 3 minutes for their closing statements. We're not able to take questions from the audience tonight. Some of you may have reached out to us in advance with topics that are important to you. Our apologies if we haven't asked the particular question you wanted. There just isn't enough time to include everything. The committee that organized the event canvassed a wide range of issues. We're hopeful that you'll find our questions wide-ranging and probing enough to be very useful in this process.
Thank you so much, Steve. And now let me introduce our candidates. I am going to be pulling from your bios. So this is, we have just make these up about these folks. This is what they have to say about themselves. First, the candidates I'm going to introduce are in California's Congressional District 1. Audrey Denny, who tonight is a Chico-based educator, a nonprofit leader, and a lifelong advocate for rural communities, running in Congress for California's 1st District to deliver the representation that Northern California deserves. She's dedicated her career to service, from teaching at Chico State to leading nonprofit efforts that support families, strengthen rural communities, and expand food security. Audrey rejects corporate PAC money. She puts people first and is running a people-powered campaign to protect democracy and to build a future where every family can thrive. Audrey, thank you so much for being here tonight. We also have Mike McGuire, who is President Pro Tem Emeritus of the California State Senate. He's focused on tackling the issues facing the Golden State: wildfires, housing affordability, climate change, fentanyl, community safety, and more. And is committed to improving the quality of life for all Californians. He's a third-generation Northern Californian whose family farmed prunes and grapes in the Alexander Valley in Sonoma County for nearly half a century. Mike served on his local school board, city council, and board of supervisors before being elected to the Senate. Mike, we're really grateful for you to be here this evening.
Now let's turn to the candidates for the 4th Congressional District. Eric Jones grew up in a working-class family where his family relied on food stamps and disability checks just to get by. That experience fuels his fight to stand up for working people, not corporations or the ultra-wealthy. In his career, Eric helped grow companies that created thousands of jobs in the healthcare industry. But he also saw how our economy is rigged against working families. That's why he's running for Congress to lower costs, hold PG&E accountable, crack down on corporate price gouging, and invest in healthcare, housing, and climate solutions that actually deliver for our communities. Eric rejects all corporate PAC, special interest, and APAC money because he believes elected officials should answer to the people, not powerful interests. Mike Thompson currently serves as the congressman for California's 4th Congressional District. Recognized as a strong representative for his constituents, Thompson has worked on solutions that stand up to the Trump administration, protect our democracy, lower the cost of living, and support our vulnerable communities. Mike is a member of the House Committee on Ways and Means, where he is the ranking member of the Tax Policy Subcommittee. He also sits on the Health Subcommittee. If re-elected in the next Congress, he will be chair of the Health Subcommittee, where he pledges to fight to enact single-payer health care like Medicare for all. He also serves as the chair of the House Gun Violence Prevention Task Force, where he was able to get the most significant gun safety legislation in the last 30 years.
we're ready for some questions. Does that sound good to you? Should we dive in? Okay. For the candidates, Sabra, who you heard us introduce everybody at the very beginning, is going to be our timekeeper. So she's got a sign down there if that's helpful to you. I want to just take this kind of left to right, starting with you, Eric. And this is a question for everybody. Having a fascist party in power has fundamentally changed our politics. It's simply not business as usual any longer. In this moment, how should the Democratic Party respond? And how should individual members of Congress step up? We'll start with you, Eric.
Simply put, say no. There have been many occasions in the past year where Democrats, despite performatively saying statements against the Trump fascist regime, have actually voted in accordance with Trump's policies. And when you look at the actions, when there has been an occasion where we collectively Democrats with Trump, it's generally been along corporate establishment lines. So I can refer to the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, where our government authorized $1 trillion of military spending. Trump needed Democratic votes because there was anti-war Republicans who said no, and he knew exactly where to get them. He went to the corporate establishment wing of the Democratic Party, those who take money from Lockheed Martin, from the oil and gas industry, and from all the special interests that have continued to fuel war abroad and war at home. On January 14th, we voted for the National Security Appropriations Act. Again, corporate Democrats sided with Trump to pass that bill. That was 7 days after Renee Good was murdered in the streets of Minneapolis. And I felt particularly strongly about that vote because I was in Minneapolis protesting. We don't have to vote with Trump. We have to have the courage to say no.
Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to say thank you all for being here today and your fight to take this country back. I want to say thank you to Indivisible. Sabra, thank you so much for your work and to the entire committee's work. I think there are three ways that we need to take our country back. Number one is accountability, to hold the fascist president, his fascist allies accountable. And I do mean we need to use every ounce of power in our body to be able to impeach the president, to be able to impeach those who are in his cabinet, and to be able to move forward quickly. Number two, the Democrats need a 100-day plan about what we're for and what we're going to repeal. The $1 trillion in tax cuts for health care, the $2.2 trillion in tax cuts for billionaires across this country, the $3 billion that's going to impact hungry kids and seniors through SNAP. And then the last piece is we need to move forward with Project 2030 about what Democrats stand for and how we're going to take this country back. Here's what I believe. Income inequality, besides Donald Trump, is the greatest threat to American democracy. Are you with me, ladies and gentlemen? And so what Democrats need to stand for, what we need to stand for is fighting this rigged economy that's been established by Donald Trump. We need to repeal the $2.2 trillion in tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires here in the United States of America. What the hell do Democrats stand for? Are you ready to go, ladies and gentlemen? The other focus that we need to do is we have to raise the federal minimum wage. It's been $7.25 for 20 years, and 20 states still have a small minimum wage. We need to fully fund Social Security, and once and for all, we have to pass Medicare for all in this country. We have to hold ICE accountable, which is absolutely critical, and we have to end this war in Iran, this illegal war in Iran, and hold up our constitutional powers as the House of Representatives. Tuition-free community colleges is absolutely critical, and we need universal child care in the United States of America.
So I want to be crystal clear about this. Donald Trump is a war criminal, an adjudicated sex offender, and he treats the Constitution like it's toilet paper. And we did not get here just because of Donald Trump, right? We got here by fascist and authoritarian takeover of the Republican Party and We got here by corporate captured Democrats who are complicit in rigging the political and the economic system to center. And the less you clap for me, the more I get to talk, so just consider that. So we need to use, Democrats need to use every constitutional tool at their disposal, starting with impeachment and not ending with oversight and hearings and being very, very noisy. But we also have to address the root causes of the corruption in the system that got us here in the first place, right? Trump is not an anomaly. We have to immediately ban congressional stock trading, executive branch stock trading, that of their immediate families. We need a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United. We need one to ban the president's power. But we also need to cast a vision for what we're fighting for, right? And what we are fighting for is an economy that centers real people. We need to be fighting for a table that is bigger, that has space for voices of working class people, voices of women, voices of queer people, and people of color. When we have a House of Representatives that is more representative of the communities that they serve, we will create policy that is more equitable, and we will be able to create a vision for the next 250 years of our democracy that centers working class people and retired people instead of the richest among us.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to Indivisible for making this happen today, and thank you to all of you for being here. This is an extremely important time. There has never been a time in any of our lives that are as serious as the times that we're in right now, and Donald Trump is a clear and present danger to the continuation of our great country, to every man, woman, and child on the face of this earth, and he has to be stopped, and his mega enabler opinion. And on the last one, I want to thank Indivisible for the role you played in turning out the troops. The number of people that came out to your rallies sent a message. It was loud and clear, and people across the country heard. For those of you who came to my Impeach Kristi Noem rallies, thank you. People heard. She's gone. And the forever wars that this guy is getting us into, I'm proud to say I've never voted to go to war since I've been a member of Congress. And what's happening now with this illegal war that Donald Trump got us into is costing us money, it's costing us lives, it's costing us allies, and it's costing everybody across the country a lot of money because prices are being increased. It has to stop. We have to stop him. We have to win the midterms so we can stop him, gain control of the agenda, and gain power to subpoena, to make sure we lay all the facts bare for the American people to see, and we're gaining progress. We are winning.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you to each of you. Next question. So in light of what you just said, what actions, we want to know what this looks like in practice, what actions would you take to confront, to disrupt, and or restrict the assault against American citizens and non-citizens alike that's being conducted by ICE and the CBP, sorry. And we'll start with Congressman Thompson.
Thank you. I have. As I said, not only have I participated in the rallies that Indivisible and others have had, but I've had my own. We had over 1,500 people turn out to the Kristi Noem, anti-Kristi Noem rally. We had an outpouring of folks who said ICE is out of control. And I'm proud to say that when ICE was created, I voted no. I was afraid that there wasn't proper oversight. I was afraid that there weren't proper guardrails, and sadly, I was correct. I have voted against funding ICE, and I have stood strong with most of my Democratic colleagues to make sure that this ICE funding and expansion did not come to fruition. And I will continue to be there to make sure that it doesn't. Every member of our community is important. Every member of our community has to be respected. Every member of our community has to be protected. That is the charge of every elected and every citizen. We need to stand together on this. Yes, Donald Trump needs to be impeached. He needs to be kicked out with the 25th Amendment, but sadly, this cabinet doesn't have the fortitude to do that. And there's one thing that I agree with Donald Trump on. He said, if the Democrats win the midterms, they're going to impeach me. You bet we're going to impeach him.
If you remember one thing I say tonight, let it be this: we need to abolish ICE. It has become the private police force of Donald Trump. And when a government entity becomes so out of control that they are killing American citizens in the streets, that people are being raped and murdered and dying in detention centers, that is no longer a functioning tool in a law enforcement or immigration enforcement system. Until we can do that, we need to make sure that we are not funding ICE. That is the very first congressional mechanism we can do. And I am a courage candidate, endorsed candidate, which means I have pledged that on the first day I am elected to office, I will submit articles of impeachment against our president. But what I think is missing often in this conversation when we're talking about ICE and immigration and enforcement is talking about having a fully functional and fully funded asylum system and asylum courts along the border. I've had the opportunity to live long-term in Central America. I've been the president of the board of the leading human rights organization in the Northern Triangle, Cristasol, and I've seen firsthand the root causes of why folks are migrating. Freedom, fear of state violence, fear of gang violence, climate change, lack of economic opportunity. And if the United States does not recognize and honor our country's culpability in the reasons people are migrating and the instability of our Central American and our Mexican neighbors, then we are not ever going to solve this problem. And so another thing that I love to talk about is rebuilding USAID and making sure that we have the State Department funding to be able to support democracy in the Western Hemisphere.
Thank you so much. Big picture, Democrats need to lead on comprehensive immigration reform and create a pathway to citizenship for undocumented residents in this country. Number one. Number two, we need to remember that 74% of all those who are detained by ICE have no criminal record. We need to hold ICE accountable. We need to dismantle ICE. And we need to do what we've done here in California. We just passed Senate Bill 747 that allows any individual who has their constitutional rights violated by an ICE officer to take them to court, to have their day in court. Just like what we do for local sheriffs and police and park rangers. If a federal agent violates your constitutional right, you should have the ability to take that individual to court and to be able to retrieve damages. Number two, we need to ensure that the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution is in place. What do I mean by that? We have to put an end to warrantless search and seizures of vehicles as well as homes. We have to put our damn foot down and stop this chaos and this madness. Number three, we need to ensure that every federal agent, just like what we do here in California for every local police agent, has a body-worn camera, which is absolutely critical. Number four, just like what we've done here in California, we passed a law that says no local police, no federal police can wear their masks on daily duty, right? They need to take off their damn masks. Number five, we need to ensure that we have a use of force policy with teeth in the United States of America for all federal police officers. And by the way, we've done that here in California. And if you have 3 violations of constitutional rights, of misconduct, you can be stripped of your ability to be a peace officer here in California. We need that law of the land across the United States of America. No one is above the law, especially law enforcement.
Looks like I'm the only one on stage without a lot of notes. Because let me tell you, I don't need notes to tell the truth. And it's my job to tell the truth because for decades, we have not had truth in our district. Because the reality is, yes, on January 14th, many Democrats voted to impeach Kristi Noem. And I'm glad she's gone. But Kristi Noem will be fine. You know who won't be fine? The 52 people who died in ICE detention centers last year without due process. That's murder. And on that same day, January 14th, when we voted to impeach Kristi Noem, that was the same day that corporate Democrats sided with Donald Trump to pass the National Security Appropriations Bill, which funded citizen surveillance and our national security apparatus that surveils American citizens and fuels ICE detention centers. So on the one hand, we can impeach Kristi Noem. To what effect? And at the same time, those same Democrats fund Donald Trump's agenda, the same regime that murdered 52 people. That is a lie. That is not truthful, and you should be embarrassed to speak that way. These words need to be said. And what can we do? In Congress, we can abolish ICE. And locally, we can use all of our power to pressure local police forces, as this community did when we picketed all together outside Sheriff Ingram's office, and we drove impact in our own communities. We did that. This room did that. Indivisible did that. We hold power. But please, do not allow yourself to be lied to anymore.
Thanks. For this question, we will start again with you, Mr. Jones. A number of experts, including the UN Special Rapporteur, have concluded that Israel has been committing genocide in Gaza. As of last summer, 77% of Democratic voters agree. Yet congressional Democrats, 135 of whom took donations from AIPAC in the last election cycle, have continued to support and to fund Israel. Do you agree that Israel is committing genocide? If not, why not? And if so, what are you prepared to do about it? Start with you.
This is where I'd like to be very honest with the room. Last week, $750,000 worth of attack ads were placed against me, bought from a super PAC and dark money PAC funded by big oil, big tobacco, tech, and other foreign interests. $750,000 of attack ads. I won't tell you why they're coming my way, but you can guess why. These are the same special interests that are putting us in war today and putting American lives at risk. And I've been getting calls frequently, noting that they're watching my every move. And I can't fight every single special interest at once. So what I'll say to this room is, anyone is willing, please have a conversation with me. I spent over a year in the Middle East. I studied Arabic. I was a Middle Eastern Studies minor in college. I know this region well, and I will fight for peace. I will fight for a free Palestine, and I'll fight to get rid of Bibi Netanyahu as a mass murderer.
I do, however, have a follow-up question, which is, do you agree that Israel is committing genocide?
Do it. Say it.
No, I cannot. I can't. Because if I do, millions of dollars will be spent against me, coordinated by...
Then why run?
Then why run? All right, I'll say it.
Do it. Do it. Yes. Israel is committing genocide. Say it. Okay.
Folks,
Please, no talking from the audience.
yeah, no talking from the audience, please.
If you believe that me saying that word will create more peace in America, will create more peace in the Middle East, if you truly believe that, I will acknowledge that Israel is an apartheid state. I will acknowledge that Bibi Netanyahu is a war criminal. And I will also acknowledge that the Jewish people do not deserve Bibi. They don't deserve that, and we do not deserve Donald Trump. And if you want me to say something performatively, you know where my heart is. You know where it is. I take no money from AIPAC. I take no money from any corporate lobby. I take no money from any special interest, and I will fight for the freedom of every person on this planet. And because I have lived with the cost of war in my own family, I will fight to make sure we never go to war again. Every morning I woke up and put my father to bed, a fully disabled veteran. I felt the cost of war in my family. So you know where I stand. I don't have to say the word. Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you so much. I think this issue that we are talking about right now is bigger than one word. I'm a dad, and as a human, I am horrified about what we've seen over the last 30 months. I have a 5-year-old at home, and it is horrific and unimaginable of what we're seeing in the Middle East region. Here's what I believe, and here's where I think we need to go. Number one, I firmly believe that Bibi Netanyahu is a war criminal. I think he needs to be held accountable, and the United States must hold him accountable. The only way that we're going to do that, number one, is to be able to focus on a lasting peace in the region. To be able to do that, we have to get Donald Trump out of office. Number three, we need to support the Block the Bombs Act. The Block the Bombs Act puts stringent conditions on any defensive aid to Israel. The only way that we're going to get Bibi Netanyahu to the table is by supporting the Block the Bombs Act. I also believe that the Congress needs to stop any new settlements in the West Bank. It is simply unimaginable, and it needs to stop.
Mike, I'm going to ask the same follow-up question, which is, do you agree with the Special Rapporteur and 77% of Democrats who say that Israel is in fact committing genocide in Gaza?
How much time do I have?
A minute.
Okay. What I just said stands. I think this is a bigger issue than one word. If we are serious about ending this war in the region and protecting the Palestinian people, then we have to have diplomatic peace. The only way that we're going to have diplomatic peace is tossing Donald Trump out of office. And Democrats need to grow a damn spine to be able to advance that. And we have to put condition. We are the largest funder of weapons to Israel. Full stop. And the only way that we're going to stop the violence is by passing the Block the Bombs Act. There are 70 individuals within the House that are supporting this. It's a progressive caucus priority. We need to move forward on that. That puts strict aid, ties aid to this bomb, the Block the Bombs Act, and that's what I would support in Congress.
My turn. Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. It has, the more you talk, the less time I have. Those words have been on the issue page of my website since I launched this campaign, because this moment is about political courage. We knew as soon as September of 2025, because the United Nations Human Rights Council called it a genocide, citing mass starvation, citing purposeful destruction of civilian lives, including hospitals and education centers. But folks, we knew before then because we have eyes and we have ears and we were watching the videos, right? I am proud to have been endorsed by Track AIPAC, which means that I not only have sworn off all AIPAC money, but all Israel lobby money and all Israel lobby adjacent money. Because if you answer to special interests on this issue, you do not answer to people. That was the question, right? Do I believe Israel is committing genocide?
Yeah,
I do.
And then
Was there
what do
an
you
answer?
intend to do about it?
Oh, what do I intend to do about it?
Yeah.
I to take my entire human rights background and human rights framing to DC. I intend to make sure that we stop spending tax dollars to fund this war and Netanyahu's war criminal regime. I intend to also make it clear that, how do I say, we must elect people who believe that human dignity is key, and that every single human is equal in worth and dignity, whether they are Jewish or Palestinian or American. And I have so many more things to say, but my time is up. So.
Thank you very much. I've been to war, and I've seen the horrors of war up front and personal. I was wounded in combat, and I've seen so much in combat is one of the reasons why I've never voted for a war since going to the Congress. I believe, and Mike McGuire mentioned the bills that he would endorse. I'm a co-author of Block the Bombs. I'm a co-author of Silver Shield. I believe strongly in a two-state solution, and I believe war crimes have been committed by Netanyahu and his folks, and I believe that every war crime should be investigated and prosecuted to whatever level they rise. No one's above the law, and anyone guilty of any war crimes, to whatever level they rise to, should be prosecuted under the fullest extent of the law. I will not vote for a single penny to go to Israel that can be used on offensive weapons. And I believe that Netanyahu needs to go, and go quickly, and the only thing better than that is him taking Trump with him, because together they are the absolute worst, not only for our country, but for the Palestinians. And as far as AIPAC, I've never received a contribution from AIPAC.
Thank you. I do have the same follow-up question I had for the other two gentlemen, which is one of those war crimes genocide? Is Israel committing genocide in Gaza?
As I said, I believe they're committing war crimes. They should be tried, prosecuted, and if it rises to something other than war crimes, so be it.
Steve, over to you.
Yes, thank you. We're going to now turn to the lightning round. We're going to do a lightning round of quick yes or no questions and yes or no answers, or an abstention. We want to do this so we can cover many issues as possible. We believe our audience deserves direct answers without qualifications to these questions. I'll pose each question to all of the candidates simultaneously. After each question, candidates will raise their hand in response to either the yes or no prompt. Candidates may abstain from answering by not raising their hand to either prompt. At the end of the entire round, each candidate will get 1 minute to explain their yes or no answers or their abstentions if they wish. Are those rules clear to everybody?
When you ask for hands raised, will you start with yes or start with no?
I'll start with yes each time to keep it as clear as possible. Would you vote to expand the number of members of the United States Supreme Court? Yes?
You're going easy on us.
Just wait. Do you accept donations from political action committees? Yes? No?
Wait, what kind of political action committees?
PACs.
Corporate PACs or all PACs?
All PACs.
Okay, will you say it again?
Do you accept donations from political action committees, PACs?
Yeah.
Okay, you can explain your answer later. Do you believe ICE...
Wait, you gotta know, right? I'm a no.
I'm sorry, no.
The only one. Although Audrey has a good reason.
Do you believe ICE should be abolished and wrongdoing prosecuted? Yes? That's everybody. Would you vote to continue military aid to Israel? Yes? No?
What kind of military aid? The defensive or offensive or?
I'm going to pose the question, you have to interpret it, and you can explain your answer later. Would you vote to continue military aid to Israel? Yes? No? Abstain? Would you vote to establish a system of universal health care such as Medicare for all? Yes? Thank you. Do House Democrats need a better leader than Hakeem Jeffries? Yes? No? Abstain? Would you vote to increase the budget for the U.S. military? Yes? No? Would you vote to reduce wealth inequality by taxing the rich? Yes, those are all yeses. Do you believe Donald Trump, in his second term, has committed impeachable offenses?
How about first term?
Do you, strike that, would you vote to impeach Donald Trump? Thank you. You will have 1 minute to explain any abstention or any other answer you gave. Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, on the issue of military aid to Israel, I think it's important to state that defensive is one thing, offensive is another. I will not vote to send a penny to Israel that can be used for offensive weaponry. And on the military question, not only would I not vote for more money for the military, but that is an area where we need to go to get money back. And on the tax the rich, I have voted, carried legislation that's been signed into law that taxes the rich.
Ms. Jennings?
Real quick, I wanted to clarify that there are different types of political action committees. Any group, like the Democratic Action Club of Chico, if they give me $1,000, that's a PAC. I will take that money. I have never and will never take a dime of corporate PAC money, which is so important because we can't get system change. We can't unrig our political and economic systems from benefiting corporations and the richest among us if our re-election campaigns are funded by corporate PACs. I have never and will never take a dime of corporate PAC money. And I raised $3.5 million when I ran for this seat in 2018 and 2020 with an average contribution size of $47 and a deep red seat that many said was unwinnable without taking corporate PAC money because we built a movement of people who believe that their voices matter and that they deserve change.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. On the issue of PAC money, I've been honored to be able to receive funding from the California Nurses Association, California Teachers, Cal Fire Firefighters, and those are all PAC dollars. I'm honored to be able to have the support of nurses and teachers and firefighters and SEIU working families who are delivering for Democrats and Republicans across this country. And that is the PAC money that I've received. On Medicare for All, only one. that has passed a Medicare for All bill out of the California State Senate. I'm proud of that. We need to take that same fight to the national level. On the issue of Hakeem Jeffries, I've never met the individual. We've been very focused on this race, and it would be presumptuous of me to be able to make a defining statement if I've never met the individual. Just being blunt about that. And then on taxing the rich, we make millionaires and billionaires pay their fair share here in California. 1.4% of the population pays 50% of the taxes. If we take that same progressive tax policy that we have here in California, we would generate trillions of dollars across America.
Guys, I'm not normally this surly, I promise. And my answers are pretty clear, but I do have to clear up something else. The National Defense Authorization Act, which Congressman Thompson voted on in December 17th, when we were actively waging an illegal war against Venezuela. Congressman Thompson voted yes, and he'll tell you that I was merely authorizing over $1 trillion of weapons spending, merely authorizing. And that was not actually in any way enabling the military-industrial complex. Well, if that's the case, then why did Jared Huffman, why did Mark Desaulnier, why did Ro Khanna, why did John Garamendi, why did Zoe Lofgren, why did Kevin Mullen, why did virtually every single member of the Bay Area vote no? No in protest to Trump, because those members knew how to stand up to the military-industrial complex and the corporate interests that fund our war. And when it comes to wealth inequality, in the 20 years that Congressman Thompson has been on the tax subcommittee on Ways and Means, corporate taxes in America have been slashed by 70%. So you can say whatever you like.
Time.
But the truth is there in front of us.
Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. I just want to point out, that's a pretty naive statement. The authorization bill had two things in it that were extremely important. One was an authorization to use military force. The second was force. That authorization bill withdrew those two authorizations, and it made it clear what Donald Trump did in Venezuela and what he's done in Iran are absolutely illegal. That was an important vote, and I think I was in pretty good company. Most California Democrats voted for that, including Nancy Pelosi, who is the head of the Bay Area organization. And as far as corporate taxes, everybody here knows how hard I fought against H.R. 1, the big tax cut that gave rich people a big tax cut and corporations a big tax cut. Republicans have been in control of the House of Representatives for 73% of the time that I've been in Congress. So I'm not going to bear the sins of a Republican majority.
Thank you. So this is a question for all candidates with 2-minute answers, beginning with Mr. Thompson. The majority of Americans are teetering on a financial brink, living paycheck to paycheck. Rising costs of home ownership, groceries, education, and healthcare have made the situation desperate. Meanwhile, centibillionaires and corporations are taking and keeping more and more wealth for themselves. What solutions do you propose?
Thank you. I have a couple. First, we need to balance out the tax programs in California, and we've done that. When we had the majority in the last Congress, we passed billions of dollars of tax increases on wealthy folks and corporations. Some of those are still the law today. Taxing on stock buybacks, corporate minimum tax, and those are things that will, in fact, help a great deal, but we've got a lot further to go. We need to bump the personal tax and the corporate tax up, and we need to get back what these guys gave away in H.R. 1, which was a huge tax cut to the richest people and to corporations. And don't lose sight of the fact that in addition to do that, to make sure all of Trump's rich buddies and got as much as he could give them. They also added $4.2 trillion onto our national debt and cut $1 trillion out of our health care. We're all going to suffer for that. In addition to that, I have legislation right now today, the American Affordability Act, that uses the tax code to lower costs on housing, health care, energy, food, child care and elder care, and education. That's an important bill. It's been widely received. As a matter of fact, Jared Huffman and I had a roundtable today in Petaluma on that, and that is a bill that will return money into people's pockets. And on top of that, I have legislation that will recapture the $1,900 that Trump's illegal tariffs took from every family in this country and give it back to them, making sure that corporations don't pocket that money.
Thank you. Jen.
Folks, like most of you in this room, I understand the affordability crisis because I've lived it, right? I am a working class person. I bartended the 90% of the time I was teaching at Chico State to try to make a living wage. The increase of health insurance premiums is kicking my ass as a single income person trying to make it work right now. And just like all of you, I'm watching things get more and more expensive while the incomes are not keeping pace, or while your retirement benefits are staying stagnant, right? I will address this issue by going to the root causes of it. Corporate consolidation, reckless and illegal tariffs, rigged markets and policy costs that shift the burden onto us, working families and retired folks. Right? Specifically, this looks like protecting Medicare, Medicaid, and SNAP benefits, nutritional assistance, and expanding that. Just in Lake County alone, before June, we'll see 2,500 people lose their SNAP benefits, and before January, we'll see 1,500 people lose their health benefits just in Lake County. In one of the poorest counties in the state, right? We absolutely have to protect and expand those earned benefits. We have to break up the monopolies and have strong antitrust legislation that we actually enforce. And we have to have a single-payer, nonprofit healthcare system, because as long as 17 to 18% of every dollar is going to line insurance company pockets instead of going to our care, prices are going to continue to increase. We need a fair tax code that makes sure that billionaires are paying their fair share, that lowers taxes for working families. And lastly, we need to tackle wildfire insurance, which is an affordability driver for so many people across California's coast. Those are going to be my priorities in making life more affordable while I'm fighting for system change.
Thank you so much. As many of you know, I was raised by my mom and my grandma. And we really struggled growing up. And if it was not for my grandma, we would not have made it. And here's what I know. My mom worked for 21 years at a local bank. She makes less than $900 per month after 21 years working for that damn bank. If we are serious about ending income inequality in this country, we have to pay women what they're worth. That is why here in California, we passed the strongest equal pay law in the United States of America. It's illegal to pay a man more than a woman when it comes to equal work. That is why I fought tooth and nail to raise the highest minimum wage in the United States of America, $25 for healthcare workers, $20 for fast food workers. You know why? 2/3 of fast food workers and healthcare workers in this state are women and women of color. If we truly care about raising wages, then we have to focus from the bottom up. I'm the only one in this race that has actually raised taxes on millionaires and billionaires. We passed Proposition 55. We put it on the ballot back in 2016, and we have the most progressive tax policy in the United States of America. 1.4% of the population of 40 million pay 50% of the taxes. We need to pass the 5% wealth tax at the national level. Have equal billionaire tax across the United States of America. We also need to focus on the tariff taxes. We have to repeal the tariff taxes. 94% of the tariffs are We are paying it, not foreign governments, all of us, and it is wrecking our agricultural industry. The last thing I'll just say is this, healthcare. 42% of the entire population in the 1st Congressional District are on Medicaid. Donald Trump took it away. 3 million Californians will lose their healthcare insurance by mid-2027. It is horrifying. We have to repeal the $1 trillion in cuts that is now going to shut down hospitals across this state.
Growing up, my family relied on food stamps, Medicaid, and disability checks. My teenage mother raised 3 boys. She took care of my father, a disabled veteran, and she worked as many hours as she could so that I could be a first-generation college graduate. I graduated from Yale University with a full scholarship. I started working at the age of 14 and worked all the way through college. My first job paid me $3.75 an hour as a seasonal laborer. So I understand the reality that so many Americans live in. And that's why it infuriates me when I see men of power claim weakness or claim helplessness and blame the other side. The tax subcommittee on Ways and Means, or rather just Ways and Means, the most powerful committee, is staffed by senior Democrats, all men. 5 men, ages, I believe, 74 and over with an average age of 80, who are all funded by corporate interests. So why do you think our tax code is the way it is? Why has wealth inequality in America over the past 3 decades grown exponentially such that we now live in the Gilded Age? We've been here before. We know what this is, and we know what corruption looks like. This is corruption right in front of our face. And to blame Republicans again and again and again from the same blue dogs who in their own mantra talk about fighting on behalf of corporations? What about fighting on behalf of people? Why are we afraid to talk about a wealth tax? Why are we afraid to talk about taking on America's largest corporations? And again, I'll remind you, there's only one candidate on this stage that has coming at them nearly $1 million in attack ads from these exact same corporations. So, if you're looking to wonder why, there's an answer right in front of your face.
Thanks. It was oblique, but I think clear enough. Congressman, would you like to respond?
I would. The top dais in Ways and Means to start with has a number of women. Linda Sanchez, Susan Delvaney, Terry Sewell, and one other one, Judy Chu. And the fact of the matter is, you can be against anybody you want, but when the numbers are the numbers, everybody knows what this president and his mega enablers were able to do with reconciliation. They cut $1 trillion from healthcare. They devastated all of the climate change, renewable energy provisions that were put in place with my bill, and they are continuing to go after it. So it's not that my colleague over here, my opponent, has all of the answer. I mean, he's worth over $100 million. And for him to say that he's having this bad, that he understands this from the ground up, I think that's a stretch. Nobody on the Ways and Means Committee is worth $100 million.
So first of all, there are several lies in that statement. The first would be that he did mention many women in the Ways and Means Committee. But I'll sit down.
Yeah.
But they are not the senior members. They are not the ranking members. And they are the members of power. On Congressman Thompson's own website, you can see how much money I'm worth. He put it on the resources section, and $100 million is a lie. And by the way, I did not make my money in Congress. I did not become a millionaire in Congress like you did, Congressman Thompson. All my money was made in the private sector. I've donated more money in my life than Congressman Thompson has made in his. And I'm a 35-year-old. And I've committed the rest of my life to helping my country.
We're going to bring this to a close.
So are we allowed to just make up numbers?
We're going to bring this to a close. Yeah, thanks.
You can look at his records. You can look at the report that he had to file to say how much money he has. You can look at all the corporations that he has invested in with his firm Dragoneer. Some of them are pretty doggone shady and have cost a lot of people a lot of grief. Many of them have had to pay federal fines, and many of them are facing suits today.
Okay, thanks.
No, I have to respond because
No,
that.
sorry. Somebody's going to have the last word here. We're going to need to bring this to a close, but you will have a chance to have a closing statement. You can certainly, add anything that you need to say there. But in the interest of time and trying to keep things balanced, we need to move forward. I have a series of individual questions, one for each of you. They're different because you're each different. You're bringing something different and new to your race. Ms. Denny, I'd like to start with you.
Me?
Yeah, you. And you've got a background in community organizing, and you've run for Congress twice, but you've never held public office. So, how will your experience translate to serving in Congress?
Thank you so much for that question. So I, as we mentioned, ran for this seat in 2018 and 2020. And since then, I was able to spend those 3 years I was running going around to every small community in California's 1st District, the pre-Prop 50 version, and sitting with folks in coffee shops, in church basements, in auction yards, in restaurants, and hearing from them. And learning what the issues of healthcare and climate change and wildfire, learning how they manifested in those communities, right? And then, being the nerd that I am, I've spent a lot of time researching and learning what are the federal levers that I can press as a member of Congress to be able to make change. In my daily life, I work with food banks and the Feeding America Network. You've heard I've taught at the university. And my job is bringing together diverse stakeholders, lifting up information from community members and subject matter experts, and trying to find strategic solutions that make real people's lives better. And if that is not the job of a federal policymaker, then I don't know what it is. But in going into, being elected into the last 2 years of the Trump presidency, when we have historically the most divided and least productive, Congress since the 1900s, what we're gonna need is not only big, bold policy solutions, but we're gonna need people who know that the Land Water Conservation Fund started in 1964, takes $900 million of oil and gas revenue every year, and that money needs members of Congress to say, hey, here's a project in my district that would qualify for this recreation, tourism, and forest restoration money, right? And so I'm going to have task forces for all of the major issues that have representatives from each of the 9 counties that I'll represent, so we can lift up the lived experience of people in our communities with how those issues specifically play out in those communities to find solutions. I am, in the same vein, a system change candidate as I am a delivering results candidate. Thank you for the
One for Mike McGuire. Many voters are looking for outsiders to reform or to rebuild the Democratic Party. You've risen through the ranks in state government. For voters looking for change, why should they consider you a potential disruptor in Washington?
Thank you so much. I think what voters are also looking for are fighters. They're looking for folks who are willing to be able to stand up to this fascist and to be able to punch back and to be able to take this country back. Let me be very clear. Thanks to each and every one of you, we passed Proposition 50. The way we got Proposition 50 on the ballot is as Senate leader, working with the governor, working with our speaker. We got Prop 50 on the ballot. And when we first advanced Prop 50, it was polling at 38%. Folks kept telling us, 2 wrongs don't make a right. Here's the piece. When there is a bully, you punch back and you punch back harder. Am I right, ladies and gentlemen? And that's what each and every one of you have done. That's what you did. You took to the streets, you got on the phone, you knocked on doors, and guess what? 4 months and 5 days later, change is a-coming. We passed Proposition 50, 5 new Democratic seats, 7 seats that are now bluer than they've ever been in the history of this state. What we need right now are folks who are willing to take on the president. When Donald Trump defunded Planned Parenthood, guess what we did? As Senate leader, I funded every one of the 100 Planned Parenthood health centers in the state of California. When Donald Trump came for our immigrant community, we put $100 million into a special fund to be able to defend immigrants in this state, because the diversity of the state of California is our greatest strength. And I hope that you're with me today on that, ladies and gentlemen. We are fighting Donald Trump in the courts. We're winning 2/3 of the time. So what we need right now are proven progressives and proven fighters who've taken on Donald Trump, not just taken him on, but won and stood up for our Constitution, our civil rights, the rule of law. That's what we need right now. We need fighters to be able to take this country back, and this room is full of them. Thank you so much, Indivisible, for your amazing work that you do each and every day.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, so tech billionaires and other wealthy donors are attempting to influence our politics at a never-before-seen scale, especially here in the state. How do you respond to concerns about the influence and interests of your donor network, which draws heavily on Silicon Valley donors?
Let me start by saying that I could not agree more with Senator McGuire. You need someone who will fight back and who will punch back. And I do apologize to this room for the break in decorum, but it's because I'm so angry. And if you ask yourself that one question, who will be willing to put their body on the line? Their body. I was in Minneapolis. I was here with you in Sonoma in front of the sheriff's office. I know what it's like to fight. And to answer your question specifically, yes, I do have individuals from the tech community. That's because I share a team with Rokana, who's a close friend of mine. So over 50% of my donors are either donors to San Ricardo or Rokana, 2 members of Congress who have opened up their community and their hand to me. And those are the last 2 competitive races we've had in the Bay Area. So yes, that's the truth. 5% of my donors work in venture capital, 5%. I did not work in venture capital, to be clear. I built healthcare companies. I built one of the largest mental health clinics in the US and one of the largest maternity clinics in the US. I also started an organization called the American Dream Institute, which every day speaks to millions of young men and women online and cultivates left-wing voices to fight back against MAGA extremism. That's a nonprofit that I started because I've seen the problem. I've seen the darkness that exists online. And I see where young people in our country are going, and we need to fight back. And we need people who know how to fight back. So I do apologize. But please take it only as a sign of my eagerness to make this country right again, and to be the country that I believe in, that gave me so much. That's why I'm doing this.
So one for Congressman Thompson. So people are concerned about the age of their elected officials, including Democrats, some of whom are in their 80s and are now running for re-election. Many complain that older members of Congress don't understand the world we live in or have solutions that address the demands of American society today. You've served since 1999. What's your response to these concerns?
Thank you for the question. First, I'm not 90, I'm not 80, so I don't fall into that category. I'm running for re-election because of everything that everyone has said. We need the best team on the field. We need people that can fight this president, can fight his MAGA enablers, someone who's battle-tested, someone who's experienced, and someone who is effective. This is not the time for on-the-job training. I also want to say that this race has been looked at by just about every imaginable group. And all of those young folks who are looking for young leaders made a choice. It was the Redwood Empire Young Democrats, they endorsed me. The Sacramento Young Democrats, they endorsed me. The only incumbent that they endorsed, by the way, the University of California at Davis Democrats, they endorsed me. The high school Young Democrats, they endorsed me. Ro Khanna and Sam Liccardo, they endorsed me. So I believe that I am the one best equipped to take this fight to Trump, to make sure that working families, the American people, people in Sonoma County and across our district and great country get the representation that they need. I'm in the best position to deliver for all of you, for all of our district, for our country, and for our nation. I have gone to war to fight for this democracy, and I will continue to fight for this democracy. Thank you.
This is a question for all of our candidates on stage. You have 2 minutes to answer. When we finally regain control of our democracy, how must we rebuild our country? In other words, it's not only what you're against, but what you are for. What role will you play in rebuilding our democracy? And we'll start with you, Congressman Thompson.
Thank you very much. I think right now, all the focus needs to be on stopping this president from doing any more damage. That's why it is so important that we flip the House. I believe we're going to flip the House, and I see a pathway to victory in the Senate. This is going to be incredibly important because we've got to push back. We have to stop him. And with the majority, we'll be able to do that. We will control the agenda. We will determine which bills come up for hearings and for votes. We will control the purse strings and have a say-so in where the money goes and how it goes, and we will have subpoena power where we can lay it out clear for all Americans to see just how dangerous this guy is. And in the immediate, what we need to do is focus on the one thing that people are so frightened about right now, and that's their ability to get through the day to make ends meet. Everything is too damn expensive. We have an affordability crisis. It's difficult to buy homes, most cases impossible to buy homes. Our utility costs are off the charts. Our gas prices are off the charts. Food prices are too high. There's an agricultural crisis going on, not only just in our district, but across the country, which will exacerbate that. We have to bring the prices down. That's why my American Affordability Act is so important. Healthcare, housing, transportation, energy, and food. We've got to get those prices down. And we've got to make sure that we rebuild in a way that we never go back to a situation where someone like Donald Trump or J.D. Vance can be elected.
I love this question because this is why I'm running. Yes, it is critical that we stand up to Trump and get through the next 2 years, but folks, I am running to be part of a new generation of leaders that gets to rebuild and cast the vision for what a democracy can look like when it centers people, right? That's why I'm running. For me, it has 3 parts, right? It has an economy that works for everyone, right? That looks like single-payer healthcare. That looks like people being able to afford homes and groceries and fire insurance, right? That looks like the second part of that. That looks like a robust anti-corruption agenda that keeps us from getting back here. Nobody goes to DC saying, I want to be a corrupt politician, right? We have to stop and recreate the systems that allow corruption to happen slowly. That means taking corporate PAC money. That means insider trading, right? That means all of those little decisions that seem like, oh, it's not that bad in the moment, but that lead us to a path of corruption. I have a robust anti-corruption agenda that I want to talk about, but I don't have enough time in this answer because if there's one lady you don't mess around with, it's the timekeeper. But the third and final part of my vision is building a tent and a table that is representative of our communities, right? That also includes the people that have so often been left behind and left out, whose voices aren't heard. I am not running to make my voice heard. I am not running for power because I need power. I'm running to create shared power with our communities, to make space for every single voice to be heard. And it would be just absolutely my honor to walk alongside you and everyone else who lives in California's First as we get to collectively cast that vision for what our democracy looks like for the next 250 years.
Thank you. I believe the highest calling in life is to be able to help people. That's what we should all be about. And that's what our elected leaders should stand for. When the worst wildfires devastated our community, we came together and helped lead that. Helped lead that to be able to have one of the most successful rebuilds in our state's history. When the pandemic hit, we delivered millions of dollars worth of aid to some of the most rural parts of the state. We've doubled the number of CAL FIRE firefighters. We doubled our Air Force that's now attacking wildfires across the state. $6 billion in broadband dollars. We've delivered $3 billion alone just to the North Coast over the last 10 years. Here's what I believe. I believe that we need to be able to deliver for working families. We need to take the keys away from the most wealthy, the most powerful, and give it back to working families, the working class. And no matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, I think that we can all agree that we need to invest in good public schools. And no matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, I think that we can all agree that we need a more affordable life and more affordable homes in the community that we love. No matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, I think that we can all fight for good middle-class jobs in rural communities across this state. And I think that we can all agree that we want to keep our healthcare institutions open. That is why I have been fighting in the state Senate to be able to deliver for good jobs, quality healthcare, keeping all Planned Parenthood health centers open. And what we've accomplished in California, we can accomplish at the federal level. Highest minimum wage in the United States of America. That's what Democrats need to be standing up for. Fully funding Social Security. That's what Democrats need to lead. Codifying Roe v. Wade. That's what Democrats should be standing for here in this nation. That's what Democrats need to stand up for, and that's what I'd be honored to have you vote for.
I'd like to talk about the problem, the past, and the future. In terms of the problem, I think Audrey and I both agree, and I think every progressive in America agrees, that corruption and special interest money in politics is the problem. Citizens United is the problem. And I hear these, we can't change the Supreme Court. It's gonna be too challenging, but we can do other things. We have currently, right now, AB 1984 being introduced in California by Chris Rogers. There we go. That would prohibit all California companies, all companies and employees in California from contributing to political campaigns. Several states across the country have already done this. The DNC has already said that in presidential primaries, no special interest money will be allowed, and they could do the same thing for all Democratic primaries. We have the power. Everyone in this room has the power to endorse and elect individuals who reject all special interest money. If you believe that is the root of the problem in our politics, which is what I believe, that is the way to reform our government and to eliminate the corruption, and that will fix wealth inequality in our country, because when we get corporate money out of politics, we will be able to raise taxes on corporations. We will be able to fund healthcare and drive Medicare for all. We will be able to do all the things in the Democratic Party agenda, but first we must eliminate corporate and special interest. That is the core of the corruption. And remember, we had full control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency in the first 2 years of the Biden administration. That administration promised you universal health care. It promised to repeal the Trump corporate tax cuts, and it promised to be a bridge to the next generation. None of those things happened. And we had full control. And every Democrat in Congress is complicit. And that's because half of our Democrats are owned by corporate America. That's the simple truth.
Time now for our closing statements. 3 minutes each. We encourage candidates to explore new issues and new statements that they haven't already made tonight. And we will start in reverse order with Congressman Thompson.
Well, thank you very much. And again, thank you all for being here. The times have found us. We've got a lot of work to do, and this is the most serious of times. This president has launched an illegal and unconstitutional war in Iran. ICE is rogue and disrupting our communities. $1 trillion of health care cuts, which is going to hurt all of us. And now they want to pass the SAVE Act. That bill will suppress votes, and the only thing it's designed to save is this president's rear end. I've had enough. I hope you've had enough. We need to stand up and protect our democracy. We need to address affordability. We need to stand up to Trump, say no more forever wars, and that's exactly what I've been doing. I'm battle-tested, I'm experienced, I'm effective, and this is not the time for on-the-job training. When we flip the House and the Senate, we're going to be able to address the issues that you and I both care about. I've already mentioned single-payer health care like Medicare for all. Lower the cost to working families and to all Americans. Impeach Trump. Tax the rich and the corporations to make sure they pay their fair share. Stop the rogue ICE, and we can do it. We can do it working together. I have incredible grassroots support that I'd like to just point out. My campaign contributions, 63% of them come from our district. 72% of them are $250 or less. I have the endorsement of the, as I mentioned, the Redwood Young Democrats, the UC Davis Student Democrats, the Sacramento Young Democrats, Planned Parenthood, the Sierra Club, the Equality PAC, and I would be honored to have your support and your endorsement, and I will work nonstop with you side by side to make sure that we get through these tough times, we protect our democracy, and we return America to the great country that we all grew up with. Thank you all very much.
So we are at a moment of reckoning in our country, and voters across America have the opportunity to decide who our government works for. Because right now, we all know it is not working for working people. I'm a working class person. I've spent my career in bars and classrooms and food banks and farms, and I've seen up close and helped families navigate these challenging times, and I've lived it too. And that experience shapes how I lead, and is what makes me not hedge about what is broken, right? Because the truth is that the system is working exactly as it is designed, right? It is working to benefit corporations and the richest among us at our expense. It's designed for the wealthy, the well-connected, and the political insiders on the back of working class people. I am not running to manage that system. I am running to disrupt that system and change that system. And I have taken on tough fights before. I ran in a Trump plus 14 and a Trump plus 10 district against one of the most MAGA entrenched Republicans in the country. May he rest in peace. I did not back down then, and I will not back down now. And I want to say this really clearly. It doesn't matter if you are a Republican or a Democrat. If you are corporate captured, you are working for corporations and not for working people. And that is why I have never taken a dime of corporate PAC money, and I never will. Not from big oil, not from pharma, not from health insurance, or PG&E, or AIPAC, or the Israel lobby. And I can say that while I look you in the eye, because I've raised millions of dollars in previous campaigns in grassroots ways, right? Because who funds you is who you fight for. That's why this campaign, my campaign, has been endorsed by organizations like Our Revolution, like Indivisible Chico, like Lassen Indivisible, Track AIPAC, Progressive Democrats of America, Courage for Democracy. The difference in this race is clear. It's anti-corruption, it's anti-oligarchy, it's pro-peace, and it's pro-people. I'm not running to climb a ladder. I'm running to build a bigger table, to bring working people into power, and to fight for bold progressive solutions that actually make change. And if tables need to be flipped in Washington to make that happen, I will be alongside of you flipping those tables. I'm Audrey Denny, and I will be honored to earn your vote and your support.
I want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to be able to have this conversation here tonight. I want to say thank you to Indivisible for their amazing work. They're taking back our streets and taking back our country, and we owe you a debt of gratitude. You're on the front lines each and every day. Can we please give it up for Indivisible, ladies and gentlemen? I've never been more proud to be a Californian. When Donald Trump came for this state, each one of us stood up and stood strong, defended our voting rights, defended the rule of law, defended our immigrant community, our environmental laws. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we had the last voice. We passed Proposition 50 to be able to win back our democracy and to take back this country. And that's exactly what we needed to do. There is a clear line that all of us need to have. That clear line is that our democracy is non-negotiable. Am I right? And by the way, the fight to flip the first congressional district, by the way, the first time in 50 years that we're going to flip this district, it's not symbolic, it's strategic. It's what Proposition 50 is all about. To be able to show rural voters in this state that we care about health care, that we're going to keep their hospitals open, we're going to put food back onto the table of the hungriest in this country, that we're going to create good middle-class jobs, that we're going to advance tuition-free community colleges, that we're going to stand up against the special interests, we're going to make our communities more wildfire safe, we're going to raise the minimum wage in this country. We are finally going to pass Medicare for all in the United States of America because Democrats are going to take this country back. And we're going to tax the billionaires like they should be. The keys have been given to the millionaires and billionaires, the keys to this country. And it's now our opportunity, our time to be able to take it back. And candidly, if we were quiet right now, we would be complicit, right? We have to continue to speak up and speak out. Let me just say this. The reason why we introduced AB 1984 with Chris Rogers, the Citizens United bill, is because I firmly believe that we need to overturn Citizens United. I firmly believe that we need term limits on the United States Supreme Court. We need universal community college. We need to be able to get universal child care. I don't take money from AIPAC, and 90% of our 10,000 grassroots donors are $100 or less. Here's what I believe. You have to put people first. That's why we've been endorsed by the Democratic Party and teachers and the Sierra Club and firefighters and SEIU and nurses and Equality California and California Young Democrats. But the most important endorsement is you. Together we are going to do this. We are going to take our democracy back. We are going to fight for America, and we're going to flip the first. Thank you so much, and be honored to be able to have your support.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you, everyone, for putting up with me. I know who I am. I'm a welfare kid. I've worked every minimum wage job. I took care of my grandfather and changed his colostomy bag every day, for those of you who know what that is. I've cleaned shit, literally. I grew up in a 700 square foot home. I am proud to be the first in my family to go to college. And I am proud that I couldn't have done it without a public school that was fantastic and a mom who could change the world. That same mom, later in her life, after being a waitress, went back to school to be a nurse and got her associate's degree to be a nurse because she believes that God put on this planet to take care of people. And she's the most important person in my life. Yes, I started businesses. I started a nonprofit. I explained it to you because I see all across our country the darkness that is overwhelming young people. That's how I've committed my time to healthcare and to fighting back against Trump online. And you'll see that there's a distinction where Audrey and I don't have as many endorsements. A few months ago, I was a private citizen. My wife and I, 2 young kids, both of us working, commuting an hour every day. But then I was called to do this. I was asked to do this. And I do have the endorsement of Indivisible YOLO, which I won by an overwhelming majority. And I do have the endorsement of Our Revolution, Bernie Sanders PAC. So, I think I got the important ones. And all those other endorsements were given before I entered the race. Or a couple weren't, but the vast, vast majority were. And I will never lie to you and make up numbers. You can all see I'm not worth $100 million. And I'm not worth $400 million like Nancy Pelosi. Or millions of dollars like Congressman Thompson, who again made his money while serving you in Congress. That's just the truth. We need a new generation in Congress. There is only one Democrat, one parent Democrat, younger than me in Congress. One. Under 40, there are 2. Where's their representation? Where's the representation for young people? Where's the representation for young families? Because if you want to talk about the future, and you want to talk about representation, we need people who will fight for the future of our country and who will live up to the promise that America has always made for its citizens, that the next generation will always have it better than the last, that we will leave a better country to our kids. And there are 3 candidates on this stage that will fight every day for that and represent that, and will do that. And one candidate is the 3rd most corporate-funded Democrat in Congress. And I know that sounds harsh, and I'm sorry, but thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. You don't have to believe me about his wealth. You can look up on the filings that he had to make when he became a candidate. It's clear, $100 million. You can look at the different investments that he has, and you can also look at who is contributing to him. He raised $3 million, most of which came from fellow venture capitalists in San Francisco and the Silicon Valley, big money interest on the East Coast. The majority of his money is the average amount, $4,600. And I have a list of all the Republicans who contributed to J.D. Vance, Donald Trump Victory PAC, that also contributed to him. And I'd be happy to show that to you at any time. And it's all public record. So the fact of the matter is, you can't say you're going to do what the people who fund you tell you to do, and then take millions of dollars from the richest corporate people in the country.
Sorry, we're at time.
Thank you.
These are closing statements, so I do want to bring us to a close. You're welcome. I'm sure the candidates will be here if you have further questions for them a bit afterwards. Once we get into this kind of back and forth, there's no way to really bring that to, I think, a satisfactory close. But if you have questions about things that you want to ask the candidates, you're certainly welcome to do that after we have the meeting. And there's this thing called the internet. You can look up a lot of the things that are being discussed, and do a little bit of digging. You can also look through some of the materials that we have for you. I want to thank the candidates for participating. Thank you for spending that time. Thank you for the energy and the wit and the dedication and the energy that you brought here. It's fantastic. I do want to thank our volunteers again. And I want to remind you that the intent here is to get your votes for who you think Indivisible Sonoma County should be endorsing in this race. Maybe not an easy choice, because you've heard a lot of really great things here tonight. If you are an active member, we define again an active member as somebody who has been at least 2 of our meetings in the last 6 months. This meeting tonight will count as one of those, if you've been to just one meeting before this. If you're an active member and we've got your name and your email, then we're going to be sending you your email address. We're going to be sending you an email within the next 48 hours. And with a link to a video of this forum, in case there's anything that you forgot or you just want to watch again. With the questionnaires that the candidates were kind enough to fill out for us, with the recommendations from the primary team or our comments, and most importantly, with a link to vote. And again, you will be voting for who you believe Indivisible Sonoma County as an organization should endorse, and you can do that for both races. If you're not sure whether we have your contact information and you have attended
Sonoma County, we are hosting a fundraising dinner on Sunday, April 26th. We're raising funds for Vitus, one of the main sources of low bono and no bono legal assistance for immigrants in Sonoma County. We're showcasing 3 legendary musicians, Barbara Higbee Trio, Nat Lopez, as well as the play merengue, and offering a 4-course plated dinner as well as a silent auction. You can get a flyer on this event on your way out, or you can check out Audacity Rising INC